to the love that has laid hold of me. I'm holding on to the love that has laid hold of me.
Hey, good morning and happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you've got good food in the background. I hope you can smell the turkey and smell the pumpkin pies and all those wonderful things that Thanksgiving are about. Hope you have a beautiful, beautiful, warm day. And I hope that even though you'll eat too much, it'll still be enjoyable for you. Well, we're going to pick up. We're taking a journey for 8 days through the early parts of the Old Testament. We left off last week with the great flood of Noah. I urge you to read the entire story on your own. And we're going to go forward from Noah's flood about 300 years now. Noah has landed the ark. He and his family have started to multiply, and again, multiplication is taking place at a rapid pace on the earth. And so it's roughly about 300 years since the flood. And so let's pick up reading in Genesis chapter 11 and the next big event. It says in verse 1 of 11, "Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As men moved eastward, they settled in a plain in Shinar and settled there. Then they said to each other, 'Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly.' Then they used the bricks instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth.'" Now this is interesting. Why would they be concerned about being scattered? Why did they seem to be already not thinking that it was a positive thing, that God wanted them to replenish and fill the earth, which is what he had told Noah? But instead they feel they're acting defensive against God, like God's going to intervene in a negative way. Verse 5, "But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the men were building. The Lord said, 'If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they will not understand each other.' So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth." Couple points. He had told Noah's family the same thing he told Adam: be fruitful, be multiplied, spread out all over the earth. They wanted to kind of congeal. They wanted to just stick together in one place, build a city, build a tower that reaches the heavens. That's an interesting expression they have there. Sounds like some of the information from Noah's family members. Let's face it, it would have had to be them. Noah's family members would have been the only ones to know about the technology that existed when the Nephilim and the fallen angels were on earth, and they filled this planet with these megalithic structures and technology that was probably advanced beyond what we could imagine today. They would have remembered that, quote, extraordinary existence, albeit a violent one. And somehow they started to share these ideas as people spread out, and the thinking seems to be, we've got to reach the angels again. We've got to reconnect with them. We need them to come down and give us knowledge again. We need to connect with them so that we can somehow receive that power that our ancestors had. They're not seeking God. They're not aligned with Him. They're not spreading out like He wanted them to fill the whole earth. And so this is interesting. God comes down and He confuses their language, and hence it's called Babel. I looked at this recently, and I could be wrong on this figure, but check me out. I think there's about 6,000 languages on the planet right now. 6,000! It's always a fascinating thing to me to hear somebody speaking in another language, and you think to yourself, how could that make sense to them? And of course it makes perfect sense to them. But this was God's kindness once again. Just as the flood was a rescue mission, this is God's rescue mission again. Instead of the whole world colluding together in an antagonistic posture toward God, moving away from Him and away from His will, moving toward contacting the fallen angelic entities, He's trying to scatter man so that man has a better chance of seeking him and finding him. In the book of Acts, chapter 17, it says that very thing. It says, I believe it's in verse 27, that God scatters man all over the world so that we would have a better chance to seek him and find him, though he is not far from any of us. So here's the start of human languages. By the way, they've done a lot of research to try to figure out, and when they trace back in time, they kind of come back to some time of what this dating might be. Now, you know, there's controversy on that. Nevertheless, here's the start of human languages. And by the way, the book of Acts, chapter 17 that I quoted, it makes it very clear that languages, national divisions, borders, these things are all established for God in this age. God wants us to stay somewhat separate because it is much more likely that God will be able to reach us, that we will seek him if we stay separate, not if we all speak the same language, not if we're all under one national banner. Our world has always tried to unify. Read it on your own in Acts chapter 17. God created the languages to keep us apart, and he created national boundaries to keep us apart. It's part of his plan so that we would seek him. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving day. Don't eat too much. Goodbye.
I'm holding on to the love that has laid hold of me. I'm holding on to the love that has laid